We Black people with full citizenship and freedom and every opportunity in the richest country and most dynamic country on the planet, attracting the attention of people globally, are failing to measure up. The cops and crime and violence is one dimension of it. The absolute disorder and chaos in our family lives is another dimension of it. The failure to develop our intellectual potential so that we can perform and function effectively is another dimension of it. We have no place to hide from the future. All we can do is go into a corner and throw a tantrum. And sadly, our leaders are at the forefront of this disastrous course. The people who might actually alter the course lack the courage to do so. They jump on bandwagons, they sloganeer, and they virtue signal because they're playing a game. The people who are going to pay the cost of this are the Black poor. They're the ones who can't read. They're the ones who are languishing in a jail somewhere because of their behavior. I'm inured to the haters. I really am. I see it just like you do, and it just rolls off of my back. I know what I'm about. I know I'm not that guy that they think I am. So I'm good. I think the stakes are just tremendously high for the country. So even if it were to redound in my excommunication from certain social circles of co-racialists and my caricatured, becoming a poster boy for a certain kind of Uncle Tom-ism, I can live with that because I think the stakes here are enormously high. The stakes are also high for Black people. I mean, as you know, there's been an upsurge in violent crime in Black communities, even as this racial awakening with America's racism has been unfolding. How many Blacks are killed by the cops, unarmed African Americans? It's a dozen, 24 in a given year. You got 8,000 homicides with Black victims in this country in a given year. There are areas of American society that are absolutely unlivable because of the depredations of, carjackers and muggers and teenagers carrying guns in the middle of the street at 1 a.m. in the morning and whatnot, terrorizing people. The cops become the enemy. The cops become this, cartoon representation. They're all stormtroopers, over militarized, preying upon people. It's a complete lie. How could this change? If serious people like the former president of the United States and the first Black person to have been elected to that office, or the current sitting vice president of the United States and the first Black person to have been elected to that office, were to use their enormous influence on behalf of the country in the face of this madness, perhaps were the editors of major organs, it doesn't require that all of them, but a few of them, like the magazine that you write for, or the newspaper that is the paper of record in your hometown, or the foundations that anoint the cultural iconic figures of our time, to broaden their perspective beyond the virtue signaling and the bandwagon jumping that characterizes their behavior, and actually just engage with all of the nuance of the problem. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. 8,000 homicides go unmentioned in the context of the evocation of the value of Black life. So, y'all can call me whatever you want to. I don't care. It's time to tell the truth as best we can understand it. That's what we are getting paid for here. That's what the great privilege of having a microphone, I think, requires of us. You think I'm wrong? Prove me wrong. Let's have an argument. But calling me a name is not going to faze me.
I find the names just triggering. Yeah, I mean, you get used to it after a while, but it's just the twisted mentality, I have to put it that way, of people on this particular issue. And so, for example, the 8,000, their response to that is, oh, yeah, that too. As if that makes any moral sense. Oh, yeah, that too. I'm upset about that too. But they don't say anything about that on a regular basis. They're clearly not as upset about it. They think that somehow if a black person gets killed by another black person, it's not as bad as if they get killed by a white person, especially a cop. It's not as bad, even in those numbers. So they'll say that too, but they had to be made to say it, and they never say anything about it again. And unless they see someone else talking about it and they get into these Talmudic discussions about how you're not supposed to talk about black on black murders. And none of that makes any logical sense. Any naive person coming into our society and watching these strictures on the way we talk about these things would be mystified. It would be like listening to theologians in the 1200s in France. You'd have to really learn what each term meant, why certain things weren't being talked about. It's truly barbaric, the lack of concern with human life that this entails. And it's not that there aren't take back the neighborhood, stop the violence marches. Yes, there are. But the fact that we talk so much more about what happened to, for example, poor Dante Wright, that's considered more important. And anybody who says that it isn't is bullshitting. If it isn't considered more important, then why is it talked about so much more? Isn't that the definition of something being considered more important, that you talk about it more? It's talked about more. Is the cop who makes a mistake, or even the asshole, murderous cop, that's more important. It's a dereliction of what a moral society is supposed to be. And to insist on this, and you think that it's because people have something invested. We always run aground on this one. So Maxine Waters, I think she doesn't have anything invested, especially at her age. She's been around a long time. She doesn't have a career to build. I heard her and I was thinking, wow, she's still in that same place. I think that she is deaf to hearing other ways of looking at it. It's not that she refuses to change her mind. It's that, well, no, it is that she refuses to change her mind. She can't listen to any view other than that the cops are these murderous thugs, partly because she's old enough that she knew in L.A. where they were. That is what it was like until a certain point. But then also because she's built a whole identity. It's not her career. It's her black identity around this sense of victimhood and protecting other black people from being victimized. I don't think that it's not a cynical careerist move. It's that she can't hear anything else. And I don't mean to dogpile on her in particular, but I know what you mean. I was listening to her and I was thinking, wow, this isn't constructive. And it's as if she can't even consider how many white people this sort of thing happens to. And, maybe she doesn't read Quillette or something like that, but an awful lot of people do, and yet just won't listen. One of my favorite things was when I wrote a thing in Quillette. And some of the stuff on Twitter was, well, anything that they publish, I'm just not going to listen to because such and such right there. As if that's a current answer. And the person who writes this, often somebody with a PhD, like that's the best you can come up with reasoning. It's that they suspend their reasoning when it comes to black people being victimized because it's become a badge of morality to cry for us. But wow, when it comes to things as fake as this, or what is clearly about to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but Derek Chauvin is going to be acquitted, and everybody is just going to go out of their mind. And the way the media is going to cover it beyond weirdos like us is that it's justified because George Floyd died because he was a black man. And it just isn't true. It's just not true. And yet I have been thinking over the past week how somebody like us can move graciously and be constructive in an America where on this point, nobody's going to budge beyond our heterodox circles.
Tell me about it, man. I'd love to be constructive. Tell me.
There's nothing to be done, so we have to move on. There are minds that will not change. And yes, I'm frustrated this week. I've just been thinking nothing on this particular question ever budges. We're just stuck. It's so fake. Such a fake thing.
All right. Well, my larger analysis, which you will probably reject, John, is that basically we have achieved equality of opportunity in the country in terms of race. Basically, we have chased away the Jim Crow bugaboo. We have not just laws on the book, but widespread social custom and practice and norm that have moved so far away from 1960 that it's not even funny. I mean, the Democrats are reduced to calling the Georgia voters integrity law racist and Jim Crow, because there is no Jim Crow anywhere in sight. It's all just banner waving, sloganeering. It doesn't actually touch the ground in terms of anything that's real. And these words, this is Orwell, this is George Orwell, these words become meaningless after a while. They just become slogans. They don't mean anything whatsoever. But what we've got here, now we're a quarter into the fifth, into the 21st century. The world is so fast moving, it's not even funny. Have you heard of China? Do you know what's going on in the world? It's being remade every decade by technology and by globalization, by communication, by innovation. My God. So we Black people with full citizenship and freedom and every opportunity in the richest country and most dynamic country on the planet, attracting the attention of people globally who want to be a part of it, and we have birthright citizenship here, are failing to measure up. The cops and crime and violence is one dimension of it. The absolute disorder and chaos in our family lives is another dimension of it. The failure to develop our intellectual potential so that we can perform and function effectively is another dimension of it. We have no place to hide from the future. It's coming willy-nilly. All we can do is go into a corner and throw a tantrum. And sadly, our leaders, including Barack Hussein Obama, are at the forefront of this disastrous course. The people who might actually alter the course lack the courage to do so. They jump on bandwagons, they sloganeer, and they virtue signal because they're playing a game. The people who are going to pay the cost of this are the Black poor. They're the ones who can't read. They're the ones who are languishing in a jail somewhere because of their behavior. So I'm just absolutely furious with these people, their irresponsibility, their demagoguery, their cowardice. I'm furious with them, and they are leading us to hell. We're on the road to hell here.